Shadows in the sunlight. Olivia Harrison adjusted the air conditioning vent in her Audi as she navigated through downtown Portland's midday traffic. The summer heat was particularly brutal this year, made worse by the extra weight she carried at 6 months pregnant. Her free hand absently drifted to her rounded belly, a gesture that had become instinctive over the past few months. The radio hummed quietly in the background as she pulled into the parking garage beneath the glass and steel headquarters of Harrison Developments. She wasn't expected today, hadn't been to the office in weeks, actually, but Jonathan had forgotten his passport at home, and with his Toronto meeting tomorrow, she'd offered to bring it to him. Mrs. Harrison. The security guard nodded with a smile as she passed through the lobby. Congratulations again on the little one. Olivia managed a polite smile in return. Thank you, Gerald. Is my husband in his office? I believe Mr. Harrison stepped out for lunch about 20 minutes ago. Said he'd be back around 2. Perfect. Olivia needed to drop off the passport without the customary tour of showing off his pregnant wife to colleagues. These days, Jonathan seemed to parade her around like a trophy when it suited him, then vanish for days into his work. Their relationship had grown increasingly distant during the pregnancy, something Jonathan attributed to stress over the company's expansion and her hormones. In Jonathan's office, Olivia placed the passport on his desk and was about to leave when she noticed his jacket draped over the chair. Remembering his complaint about losing receipts for expense reports, she reached into the pocket, intending to place any receipts in his drawer where he kept them. Her fingers closed around a small paper and pulled it out. Not a receipt, but a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Last weekend was magical. The cabin felt empty after you left. Counting the hours until Thursday. All my love, Fiona. Olivia read it again, her hands beginning to tremble. Thursday, tomorrow. When he was supposedly in Toronto, she sank into Jonathan's chair, the note clutched in her hand. Breathe, she told herself. The baby. Think of the baby. With deliberate calmness, she opened his laptop. His password hadn't changed since they were married. Her birthday. How touching. Within minutes, she found it all. Emails, photographs, hotel reservations. Fiona Blackwood, 29 gallery curator. The affair had been going on for nearly a year, and there it was, directions to their special place, a lakeside cabin in the Cascades that Jonathan had purchased 6 months ago. An investment property, he'd told Olivia. A place they'd take their child someday. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jonathan. In meetings all afternoon. Don't wait up tonight. Big prep for Toronto. Olivia's shock crystallized into something harder. She stood, tucked the note into her purse, and walked out of the office with her head high. 3 hours later, she pulled onto a gravel driveway leading to a modern cabin overlooking a pristine lake. A silver BMW was already parked there, not Jonathan's. Taking a deep breath, Olivia stepped out of her car and approached the door. She didn't knock. The key was hidden exactly where Jonathan's saved email had indicated, under the ceramic frog by the garden hose. Inside, Olivia found herself standing in a sunlit great room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. Expensive furniture, tasteful art. A half-empty glass of wine sat on the coffee table. Jonathan, a woman's voice called from upstairs. You're early. I just got out of the shower. Olivia placed her hand on her belly, drawing strength from the slight flutter within. It's not Jonathan, she called back, her voice steadier than she expected. But I think we need to talk, Fiona. Footsteps overhead paused, then slowly descended the stairs. The confrontation Fiona Reynolds appeared at the bottom of the staircase, wrapped in a plush white bathrobe, her copper hair still damp from the shower. When her eyes fell on Olivia, particularly on Olivia's pregnant belly, all color drained from her face. Oh my God, she whispered, clutching the banister for support. I'm Olivia Harrison, Olivia said, her voice remarkably calm despite the thundering of her heart. Jonathan's wife. Fiona sank onto the bottom step, her knuckles white against the dark wood. He told me you were separated, that you were living apart for months now. Her eyes never left Olivia's stomach. He never mentioned a baby. Of course he hadn't. Olivia moved to the living area and lowered herself carefully onto the sofa. We celebrated our 5th anniversary 3 months ago. He took me to Paris. She placed her hands protectively over her belly. This baby was planned, Fiona. We've been trying for 2 years. I think I'm going to be sick, Fiona murmured, pressing her palm to her mouth. That makes 2 of us. An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant call of birds over the lake. Through the wall of windows, sunlight danced on the water's surface, a stark contrast to the darkness unfolding inside. How long? Olivia finally asked. Fiona closed her eyes briefly. Almost a year. We met at a charity auction for the gallery where I work. He bought a painting, said it reminded him of his mother. Olivia laughed hollowly. His mother hated art, called it a waste of wall space. She reached for Fiona's abandoned wine glass and took a small sip, her first taste of alcohol since discovering her pregnancy. Just enough to steady her nerves. He told you we were separated? What else did he tell you? As Fiona began to speak, a portrait emerged of a Jonathan Harrison that Olivia barely recognized. A man trapped in a loveless marriage, desperate to honor his commitment to a wife who didn't understand him. A man building a secret sanctuary where he could be his true self. A man who promised Fiona they would be together properly once things were settled. He bought this place for us, Fiona said, finally moving to sit in an armchair across from Olivia. Said it would be our home someday. He bought it with our money, Olivia replied, from our joint account. 6 months ago, right after we found out about the baby. Something shifted in Fiona's expression, confusion giving way to a dawning realization. He's been lying to both of us, hasn't he? Olivia nodded slowly. I think that's just the beginning. Over the next hour, they compared notes, dates, promises, plans for the future. Jonathan had crafted entirely different lives with each woman, contradictions layered upon contradictions. To Olivia, he complained about crushing workloads and late meetings. To Fiona, he described imaginary business trips and weekends with his difficult, estranged wife. Last month he took me to San Francisco, Fiona said, now dressed in jeans and a sweater, her initial shock hardening into anger. Said it was a business trip. The tech conference. Olivia nodded. He brought me back a silver bracelet from that little boutique on Market Street. Fiona's face paled again. He bought me a necklace from the same place. A matching set, Olivia thought bitterly. How efficient. As they talked, Olivia noticed something unexpected happening. The knot of pain in her chest began to loosen, replaced by something else. Clarity. She'd spent months blaming herself for the growing distance between them, for Jonathan's distraction and impatience. Now, watching Fiona's expressions shift between hurt, anger, and determination, Olivia recognized a kindred spirit, another woman who had loved and been betrayed by the same man. He's supposed to be in Toronto tomorrow, Olivia said, checking her watch. But according to your note, he'll be here instead. What are you going to do? Fiona asked. Olivia looked out at the lake, its surface now turning golden in the late afternoon light. Originally, I thought I'd scream, throw things, demand explanations. She turned back to Fiona with a small, sad smile. Now, I think we wait for him together. I think Jonathan Harrison needs to face both of us at once. Fiona hesitated, then nodded decisively. I'll make coffee. Something tells me it's going to be a long night. Outside, the sun began its slow descent behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the cabin's deck. Inside, 2 women who had entered as strangers and rivals began forming an alliance that would change all their lives forever. Unraveling truths, the headlights of Jonathan's Range Rover swept across the cabin windows shortly after 8 p.m. Olivia and Fiona exchanged glances from their positions in the living room. Olivia seated regally on the sofa, Fiona standing by the fireplace. They had prepared carefully, rehearsing what they would say. But now that the moment had arrived, Olivia felt strangely calm. The door opened, and Jonathan Harrison stepped inside, loosening his tie. He was halfway across the threshold before he registered the scene before him, his wife and his mistress waiting side by side. The bouquet of lilies in his hand dropped to the floor. What? His voice failed him. He tried again. What is happening here? Hello, Jonathan, Olivia said calmly. Toronto looks lovely this time of year. The color drained from his face. Olivia, I can explain. Can you? Fiona interrupted, her voice tight with controlled anger. Can you explain why you told me your wife knew about us? Or why you never mentioned she's pregnant with your child? Jonathan's eyes darted between the two women, his confident facade crumbling with each passing second. This isn't... You don't understand the pressure I've been under. Sit down, Jonathan, Olivia said. Not a request, but a command. Surprisingly, he obeyed, sinking into an armchair across from them. We've been comparing notes. And timelines, Fiona added. And bank statements, Olivia finished. Over the next hour, they methodically dismantled the elaborate web of lies Jonathan had constructed. The business trips that were romantic getaways with Fiona, the late meetings that were dinners at hidden restaurants, the investment property that was intended as a love nest. But as they talked, something more disturbing emerged. Discrepancies in Jonathan's stories about the company finances. References to accounts Olivia had never heard of, despite being a 40% stakeholder in Harrison Developments. What's Meridian Holdings, Jonathan? Olivia asked, watching his face carefully. A flicker of panic crossed his features before he composed himself. A subsidiary. Nothing important. Strange, Olivia said, because I called Walter this afternoon. Walter Keating, the company's CFO and Jonathan's oldest friend. He's never heard of it either. Jonathan's left eye twitched slightly, a tell Olivia recognized from their poker nights with friends. He was cornered. You've been moving money, she continued, the pieces falling into place. That's why you've been so stressed about the Toronto acquisition. It's not happening, is it? Fiona looked between them, confused. What does this mean? It means, Olivia said, never taking her eyes off her husband, that Jonathan has likely been embezzling from his own company. From our company. You don't know what you're talking about, Jonathan snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. Walter is looking into it now, Olivia continued. He seemed quite concerned when I mentioned those transfers to the Cayman account. Jonathan lunged to his feet. You had no right. Those are business matters that don't concern you. I own 40% of the company, Olivia reminded him, her hand instinctively moving to protect her belly. Everything about Harrison Developments concerns me. And what about us? Fiona asked quietly. Was any of it real, Jonathan? Or was I just another account you were managing? Jonathan's face hardened as he looked at Fiona. You were a distraction, nothing more. A pleasant way to pass time while dealing with real-world pressures. He turned to Olivia, attempting a conciliatory smile that didn't reach his eyes. Olivia, whatever Walter thinks he's found, he's mistaken. Come home. We can talk about this privately as husband and wife. Like we talked about the baby? Olivia asked. Like we talked about this cabin? Or the $250,000 missing from our joint account? The facade finally cracked completely. Jonathan's handsome face contorted with rage. You stupid, entitled woman. Do you think any of this would exist without me? The company, the houses, the lifestyle you've grown so accustomed to? I built everything from nothing while you played corporate wife. I helped you secure your first 3 clients, Olivia reminded him, her voice steady despite his outburst. I worked 80-hour weeks alongside you until we agreed I would step back to start our family. A family you apparently never wanted. I never wanted any of this, Jonathan shouted, gesturing wildly at Olivia's pregnant belly. This was your dream, not mine. The words hung in the air, impossible to take back. Fiona gasped softly, while Olivia felt a strange sense of relief. Finally, the truth. Get out, Fiona said suddenly. Both of you. This fantasy is over, Jonathan laughed bitterly. This is my cabin. You're the ones who need to leave. Actually, Olivia said, pulling out her phone, I just received confirmation from our lawyer. Since this property was purchased with marital funds without my knowledge, and since you're now under investigation for financial improprieties, the court has granted a temporary freeze on all assets, including this cabin. She stood carefully. We'll be leaving now, but I suggest you don't get too comfortable. The authorities will want to speak with you tomorrow. As Olivia gathered her purse, Jonathan's anger gave way to panic. "You can't do this!" "Think of our child." "I am," Olivia replied. "That's exactly why I'm doing this." Outside in the cool night air, Olivia and Fiona stood beside their respective cars, the reality of the evening settling around them like the mist rising from the lake. "What will you do now?" Fiona asked. Olivia looked back at the cabin, the beautiful prison of lies Jonathan had built. "Start over," she said simply. "What about you?" "The same, I suppose." Fiona hesitated, then added, "Thank you for not blaming me." "We were both deceived," Olivia replied, "but not anymore." As they prepared to drive away in opposite directions, Jonathan burst from the cabin, his face contorted with rage. "This isn't over!" he shouted. "Either of you think you can walk away from me? I'll destroy you both." Fiona and Olivia exchanged a glance, a moment of perfect understanding between two women who had found unexpected strength in shared betrayal. "No, Jonathan," Olivia said calmly. "I believe we're just getting started." The Alliance. 3 weeks after the confrontation at the cabin, Olivia sat across from her lawyer in his downtown office, surrounded by stacks of financial documents. The revelations about Jonathan's activities had snowballed. What began as suspicious transfers had unraveled into a complex scheme of offshore accounts, falsified reports, and diverted investor funds. The board has voted to suspend him pending the investigation, Gregory Walsh, her silver-haired attorney, explained. But they're concerned about public perception. Harrison Development's stock has already taken a 15% hit. Olivia rubbed her temple, fighting off another stress headache. "What are my options?" "As a major shareholder and co-founder, you could step in temporarily," Gregory suggested. "It might stabilize things, show investors there's still a Harrison at the helm who can be trusted." The idea was daunting. At 7 months pregnant, Olivia had planned to be decorating the nursery, not saving a company from her husband's misdeeds. Yet something about the challenge awakened a part of her that had been dormant, the strategic, determined woman who had helped build Harrison Developments in the early days. "Set up a board meeting," she decided, "and get me all the files on the Toronto acquisition that never happened." As Gregory gathered his papers, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text message from an unexpected source. "Fiona. Coffee? Need to talk. Important." An hour later, they sat in a quiet corner of a cafe far from the corporate district, where neither was likely to be recognized. "Thank you for meeting me," Fiona said, looking more composed than she had at the cabin, though fatigue shadowed her eyes. "I've been contacted by the SEC. They want me to testify about what I know." "Which is?" "More than I realized," Fiona admitted. "Jonathan talked in his sleep, and he was careless with his laptop around me. I've seen documents, heard names." She hesitated. "Including Meridian Holdings." Olivia leaned forward. "That could be crucial evidence, I know. But here's the thing." Fiona glanced around before continuing. "I'm scared. Jonathan came to the gallery yesterday. He was threatening. Said if I testified, he'd make sure I never worked in the art world again." "He approached you?" "That violates the restraining order." "No witnesses," Fiona said bitterly. "Just his word against mine as usual." Olivia studied the woman across from her, the same woman who, by all conventional narratives, should have been her enemy. Instead, she felt an unexpected kinship with Fiona, a shared understanding born of similar wounds. "What if we work together?" Olivia suggested suddenly. "Not just with the investigation, but after. Whatever comes next." Fiona looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I'm stepping in at Harrison Developments while Jonathan deals with the legal fallout. The company owns that gallery space where you work. Did you know that?" "No," Fiona admitted, looking stunned. "Jonathan always said he was just a patron. He acquired it 3 years ago as part of an arts district development." Olivia took a deep breath. "I could use someone I trust to manage our cultural investments. Someone who understands both art and deception." "You're offering me a job?" Fiona laughed incredulously. "After everything?" "I'm offering you an alliance," Olivia corrected. "Jonathan underestimated both of us. Let's show him, and everyone else, exactly how badly he miscalculated." Over the following weeks, their unlikely partnership blossomed. Fiona provided crucial evidence that helped prosecutors build their case against Jonathan, while Olivia steered Harrison Developments through the turbulent waters of scandal and reorganization. Together, they crafted a narrative of corporate transparency and accountability that began to restore investor confidence. When Olivia went into early labor at 36 weeks, it was Fiona who drove her to the hospital, who waited anxiously in the corridor, who was the first besides Olivia to hold baby Charlotte Harrison when she arrived, tiny but perfect, in the early hours of a rain-washed morning. "She's beautiful," Fiona whispered, carefully cradling the newborn. "She has your determination already. Look at that grip." Olivia watched them, exhausted but content. "She'll need it. We all will." The news came 3 days later while Olivia was still in the hospital. Jonathan had fled the country, presumably tipped off about his imminent arrest. His accounts were frozen, his passport flagged, but he had vanished, likely with help from associates still loyal to him. "He'll be back," Olivia said when Fiona brought the news, looking down at her sleeping daughter. "Men like Jonathan can't stay hidden forever. Their egos won't allow it. What do we do until then?" Fiona asked. Olivia's answer was simple. "We build something better than he ever could." And slowly, methodically, that's exactly what they did. Two women forging an unexpected path forward from the ashes of betrayal, bound by shared pain and common purpose, creating something neither could have imagined before that fateful day at the cabin. New beginnings 18 months later, Olivia stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her office on the top floor of the Harrison building, watching Charlotte toddle enthusiastically across the plush carpet toward her assistant, Teresa, who had just arrived with afternoon coffee. "Someone's getting faster," Teresa observed, carefully setting down the cups before scooping up the giggling child. "Too fast," Olivia agreed, accepting her daughter back into her arms. At nearly a year and a half, Charlotte was a bundle of energy and curiosity, with Olivia's dark curls and determination. "Any sign of Fiona?" "Her flight landed an hour ago. She texted that she's on her way." Olivia nodded, glancing at the clock. The board meeting would start in 30 minutes, the most important one since she had taken over Harrison Developments, now rebranded as Harrison Innovations. The company had not only survived Jonathan's scandal, but had emerged stronger, with a restructured leadership, enhanced transparency protocols, and a renewed focus on sustainable development and community investment. The door opened, and Fiona swept in, looking elegant if slightly jet-lagged in a tailored pantsuit, her copper hair now cut in a sleek bob. "Sorry I'm late. Berlin traffic was a nightmare." She immediately moved to kiss Charlotte's cheek. "Hello, gorgeous girl. Did you miss your Auntie Fee?" Charlotte babbled happily in response, reaching for Fiona's statement necklace, a piece from the art cooperative Fiona had established with Harrison Innovations funding, which provided opportunities for emerging artists in underserved communities. "How was the Frankfurt exhibition?" Olivia asked, handing Charlotte to Teresa for her afternoon nap. "Incredible. We sold 80% of the collection, and the Bergman Foundation wants to partner on the next showcase." Fiona set her portfolio on the conference table. "But more importantly, I found something, or rather someone, in Munich." Olivia's attention sharpened. "Jonathan?" "Better. His money manager, Patrick Dennison, the one who set up all those offshore accounts. He's willing to talk." Over the past year and a half, Jonathan had remained elusive, reportedly moving between countries without extradition treaties to the United States. Interpol had tracked him to Dubai, then Thailand, then lost him again. Meanwhile, his former associates had gradually been located and prosecuted, each new conviction tightening the net around him. "What does Dennison want in exchange?" Olivia asked, immediately practical. "Reduced charges, naturally, but he has something specific to offer: the location of the remaining funds Jonathan diverted. Apparently, our ex wasn't as clever as he thought. Dennison kept his own insurance policy, detailed records of every transaction." Olivia sank into her chair, absorbing the implications. "That could change everything. The investors who lost money could be made whole," Fiona finished. I've already forwarded the contact information to Gregory. He's cautiously optimistic. A weight Olivia hadn't realized she was still carrying seemed to lift from her shoulders. The financial damage Jonathan had caused hadn't only affected wealthy investors. Pension funds and small family trusts had also been among the victims. Making them whole had been her mission from the beginning, a mission many had deemed impossible. "You're remarkable," Olivia said sincerely. "I don't know how to thank you." Fiona smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression that had developed over their months of working together. "You already did, the day you offered me a chance instead of an enemy." She checked her watch. "We should head to the boardroom. The Tokyo team is already online." As they gathered their materials, Olivia asked, "Will you stay for dinner tonight? Charlotte's been asking for you," in her own way. "Wild horses couldn't keep me away," Fiona promised. "Besides, we should celebrate. The Dennison development?" "That and this." Fiona pulled an envelope from her bag and handed it to Olivia. "It came through this morning. Final divorce papers. Jonathan's lawyers finally conceded after the Malaysian authorities froze his last known accounts. It's officially over." Olivia opened the envelope with steady hands, scanning the document that formally ended her marriage. She had expected to feel something more profound, sadness perhaps, or anger resurfacing. Instead, she felt only a quiet sense of closure. "To new beginnings," she said, returning the papers to the envelope. "Speaking of which," Fiona hesitated. "I've been offered a position, director of the new Contemporary Art Museum in London." Olivia felt a pang of disappointment but pushed it aside. "That's incredible, Fee. You've earned it." It would mean relocating, obviously. But, Fiona continued carefully, "they're very interested in our artist cooperative model, and London would be an ideal European headquarters for Harrison Innovations' international expansion." The implication hung in the air between them, not an ending, but a new chapter. "A possibility? Something to discuss over dinner?" Olivia suggested, a smile playing at her lips. As they walked together toward the boardroom, Olivia reflected on the strange journey that had brought them here. From rivals to reluctant allies to genuine friends and business partners, from betrayal to rebuilding, from broken trust to something new and unexpected. The board members rose as they entered the room, respectful of the women who had salvaged their investments and rebuilt the company's reputation. On the screen, executives from 3 continents waited attentively. This, Olivia thought, was power that Jonathan had never understood. Not dominance or deception, but the strength that comes from honesty, collaboration, and resilience. Later that evening, as Olivia watched Fiona reading a bedtime story to Charlotte in the nursery of her renovated downtown loft, she felt a sense of peace she had never expected to find in the aftermath of such betrayal. Their lives had been shattered by the same man, only to be rebuilt into something stronger, more authentic, and ultimately more fulfilling than before. Outside, the lights of the city sparkled against the night sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The potential recovery of the diverted funds, decisions about international expansion, the continuing search for Jonathan. But tonight, in this moment of quiet companionship, Olivia recognized the truth at the heart of their shared journey. Sometimes the deepest wounds lead to the most profound healing, and sometimes the most unlikely alliances become the foundation for the most extraordinary new beginnings. Charlotte drifted off to sleep, her tiny hand clutching Fiona's finger. The 2 women exchanged a smile over the sleeping child, a wordless acknowledgement of how far they had come, and the promise of where they might go next. "New beginnings," Fiona whispered. Echoing Olivia's earlier toast, Olivia nodded, grateful for the unexpected friendship that had emerged from the wreckage of betrayal. "The best kind,"